everyone, it's Tracy. Welcome back to my channel. So, like I said before, this is going to be my final page that I made for the love of homemade kits. I did manage to make 4 pages for the month of March, and this is pretty much the end of my paper. I made it right after I made the third layout. I thought, well, you know what? I'm just going to go ahead, since I have everything out, just go ahead and get it done. And even though the papers don't really like matchy-matchy at all, I was just determined to make it work. So I was lucky enough to find a photo that was very neutral. And that was the benefit that I had going for me when it came to all of these bright colored papers. I usually like to have, some yellow in with the circles, but it's not the same color yellow. So I was really stretching it, and having that black and white print is like a plus signs or Swiss crosses. Those it really did help because it helped break it up. And then green being my favorite color, I could use that at any time. So I wanted to go ahead and just use what I could. I didn't want to pull anything out from my stash, and I managed to do that. And like I also mentioned on my last video, I ended up using all of those acrylic pieces. I used all of the acrylic hearts. There were 4 of those left. I got them all down there, and I also used some paper hearts as well that I'll get them out. I'm going through some of the papers, like this is a paper strip that I had. I wanted to make sure that I use that up. I'm just trying to use up what I can. Some of it did end up in the trash, but most of it did go back into my stash because I keep all of my LA Studio papers together because all of her papers have similar colors, if not the same colors. So I wanted to keep them all together, especially when it comes to those tags and labels. So that's where most of them went anyway. And of course, I absolutely love the rainbow print. Now, as for the title of this photo or this page, I had gone to my foam letters, which I think I only used them once of the other 3 weeks that I had them out, and I wanted to make sure that I definitely used it for this one. And when I pulled the photo out, I wasn't even sure what I was going to title it. It is an old school photo of my middle daughter. She was 16 at the time. And I was trying to think what life was like with her when she was 16. And she was definitely a stronghold. She's very independent. She's always been very independent. And she's definitely a leader, no matter where she goes. So I wanted to make sure that I focused on that because I don't think she hears that enough. So I think what she hears is that she's bossy because she hears that from her sisters. And I'm sure those of you that have kids totally get what I mean. All right, so this green paper, I don't know how you guys usually do the fishtail, but that's how I do it. I cut it in the middle and then cut from one corner up to where I had trimmed it in the middle. That was so hard to explain. It's a good thing that you saw it because that's usually how I do it. I don't have a punch or anything that does fishtails for me. Now, I do love that yellow. I'm not yellow, it's red. The red paper with the white hearts on it. That was from Ellie Studio, and she didn't have any papers with it. This was just part of the, um, oh, what do they call that? Oh my gosh, it's on the end of the paper. So I'm so glad that I was able to get that down. And of course, this gorgeous wood grain paper. And I have to say, as I was rewatching this, I'm like, I am so glad I have an ATG gun because if I had used any other tape, I don't think it would have all these papers that I've been pulling up would come up so easy. And I have to say, the ATG makes it very easy if you need to reposition. So I recommend it, if anything, for that reason right there. Now the little green strip, it says, "I can always count on you." And of course, I've already done it for my other pieces of this layout where I had outlined everything, and that included the little rainbow part. And so, what I chose to title this is hashtag inspire. And just like the other time when I pulled it off, they are sticky as all get out, and they can get little because they're foam, they can get stretched out. So you've got to be careful not to pull too hard, and they would tear or rip or whatever you would call it. It'd be easy to put back together, but I didn't want to have to do that. So I try to be careful in pulling it off. So anyway, it's hashtag inspire. And that is definitely what she does. She inspires me, and I know she inspires others. So, and gluing down, as for gluing down those acetate pieces, I just use the tacky glue, the Scotch quick drying tacky glue, and that seems to work out okay. Now, the little phrase that is above the word inspire, the one on top says fearless, and the longer one below it says remember where you came from. And then some other words of affirmation I'm putting down: beautiful, amazing, believe you can, and lovely. And over on the right hand side, it says do what you love, everything is possible, and you are the best. So I certainly used a lot of those phrases from that little sheet that I had pulled out. So I'm glad to get that done. I feel like I successfully used this kit. All of the big 12 by 12 papers are used except for a little sliver of the circle paper and the yellow pattern paper that you see on the right-hand side. And I'm looking for a little spot to do some journaling. This is something I normally don't do. I usually don't use those to journal. But I've seen other people do it, and I thought, well, let me give it a try. So this is a gray label, and I'm just, journaling pretty much what I said about her. And it's a little bland still. So I end up putting a mat underneath it. And I'll wait till I get to that point to tell you, because I had to do a little fixing um, because, well, you'll see here in just a minute. So I'm looking at all the different color papers, and I choose this one. But do you see how in the upper right-hand corner it has that little dip in it? Well, I go ahead and glue it down, and then I glue this navy paper, like, in place of it, and I'm looking at it right this minute. I can't even tell that I had done that. So, just save your scraps, because you never know, how it's gonna work out. So the last thing that I do is I put the sequins on, and I want to say that I think this is the very first video that I didn't do any editing other than speed it up, and I think it took me about 40 minutes to do the page, and I sped it 4 times, so it's little less than 10 minutes to do this. So I was impressed of how fast it all came together. I don't show gluing down the sequins. That's a little boring. But we're here at the end, and there are some still shots. And if you will give me a thumbs up if you enjoyed it, and subscribe if you haven't already. All right. Thanks a lot, guys. Bye bye.